flailing about. Is there any common consensus among the community based on rational dissection of info that can be agreed upon as acceptable as fact? Okay. So Daniel says the visible prints would be photographed. One, and in the first screen. And the second was the amino acid test. And that is what showed the latent prints as the first prints would be visible. Okay, so you guys can obviously read for yourselves, but so if the footprint was latent, it would mean something that came up from the aminos test. Hold on. Yeah, so the first prints would be visible, and a latent print would be something that showed up from the aminos acid test. Jeff, we were going. You had asked me the other night. One of the things I'm going to get to with the camera, just so you know, if you want to stick around, not to jump around subjects here, but you were asking me, you don't believe there's a 712 camera until you've seen the evidence, and so I brought my receipts today to show you. Yehuda is awesome. Okay, so Deceptions, Dismantled Echoes of Clarity is asking what experiment. And what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll link it below. I'm not sure, I'll have to look for it. It was probably like mid-February or maybe beginning of March. It was somewhere in this year, in the last like 3 months or so. And now that I'm remembering it, it was a joint thing between, that's how I found out about it, was from Drunk Turkey, between Drunk Turkey and True Crime. This one says, Daniel got put through the ringer yesterday. I still say, if you want to know what I believe, just ask Daniel because he's got it 100%. That was really sweet. Thank you, Jeff. Regina says, I'm thinking there had to be more footprints, but that one explains that DM actually saw suspect one in front of her door. So it's a good point. Regina's placing the perpetrator at the latent footprint, but the boot print, the perpetrator's not at. So I don't know what that means, but it's a good point. I've always thought there was something interesting about that number. It's popped up a few other times. I dare think anything is a coincidence. And I shouldn't have said numerology, just coincidence. I didn't mean it in like an esoteric way. Latent is hardly or not visible to the naked eye. It can be seen, but not as visible. That's a good point, Winchell. And I mean, if he does, then DM would have seen Well, who knows? DM might not have seen that. If the unaliver was wearing a mask, you just see the bushy eyebrows. You know. Yeah. So I've seen the pictures on T-Rev's channel of he downloaded a lot of B-roll from the investigators in that night under the good vibes sign. Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. I know. Hearing about the J-Dub says, hearing about the hit and run in front of BK's house just makes this case more insane, LOL. So much weird shit going on that night. Okay, I'm going to read this. If it was latent, it can be seen, but not always. What they probably did was test and photo the visible prints. On the second look is when they hit the amino acids and found all of the latent prints, not just one. Hey, Mikey. Good morning, Mikey. Mikey is the one who's provided me a lot of the photos and sound bites for this show. So please show him some love in the chat. We really appreciate you contributing. I just sent a link into the chat if anyone wants to come up. But you can also just contribute in chat. There's no pressure. Honestly, there should be camera footage, I would think. But if there was a clear pic, they either did away with it or there was not one. I wonder if that was the pictures they showed Dylan. Oh, that's what I was thinking, Mikey. I sent you a message in Discord because there was one soundbite you had sent me that was of Dylan's friend talking about how she had been interrogated early on and lawyered up, but in that same soundbite, they talk about the police showing photographs of BK to Dylan. So what Desumptions is saying, she doesn't think there was a clear pic, but I wonder if it was part of the surveillance they showed them, or if it was they were onto BK for another reason and showed a picture, a different picture of BK. This is not coming out fluently, but I'm sure you guys get it. Hey, Twizzle. Hear what Phil says. Latent developing. Burgeoning. Not affected by luminal per se. Not necessarily biological in nature. So it could be an imprint as well, I guess, you're saying. I love Daniel because his heart is good. However, hey, Robert, I gotta take a Hold on. Hey.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Just waking up about an hour and a half ago.
All right, sounds like
long night last night.
Wow, yeah, you're just waking up.
I dropped 3 videos in like less than 3 hours last night.
Grinding it out, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have the air conditioner on?
It's,
like sounds like a
Yeah,
lot.
my wife had it on. The house that we live in, our landlord has a commercial sized window unit in our living room, so it gets really really cold in here. Um, I went back and looked. I went back and looked at the PCA last night,
Yeah.
and there was about three things that kind of popped out to me, and it was in one of my last videos I did. It's stated DM stated originally she went to bed in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. Originally, it didn't state anything after that. And then down below that, it said she opened her door for a second time to hear what sounded like Xana crying. And then one paragraph later, she stated, "I opened my door for a third time after hearing after hearing Colonel crying." So which one is it? Did you open your door a second time and hear the crying, or was it the third time and you heard the crying? Those three things stuck out to me last night.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head, because when I've actually gone back and listened to a couple of lawyers review that, and if you know the channel Lawyer, I just muted you just because while I was talking, but I'll unmute you in a second. But he said, and he goes, "You guys," I mean, I think his exact quote was, "You guys, that I think it means what it says. She originally was in this room. Well, if she was originally there, that means she was somewhere else, at another time." So I think I mean, even lawyers are picking up on exactly what you're saying, not just the average person. You're definitely seeing something where I see too.
Yeah. And if you look where it states in the PCA, forensic digital downloads of DM and BF's phones, and a review of the records. I think they deleted some of their text messages.
Who, Dylan?
Dylan and Bethany, because if you look at it, it says, and I quote, after forensic downloads of DM and BF's and review of their records. It wouldn't say records if they were viewing their text messages. It would say after review of their text messages. It says after review of their records.
So yeah, I mean, well, they couldn't delete those though. That's not fakeable. But you're thinking they deleted them and the records were different?
Yeah, I'm saying they deleted them, and the police went back and recovered them.
Yeah. And I think, I would think the police probably, as practice, should get the forensic analysis of the phone and go by that rather than just handing over the phone and seeing what's on it,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, like if I had a video that I didn't want somebody to see, all I have to do is delete it from my photos and delete it from my deleted album and the cloud, and it will never be seen again. You know what I mean? Without, as far as the phone is concerned, without a forensic, download or whatever. It's really observer fraud.
Yeah. If they did delete some text messages that night, why would they delete them? Were they trying to maybe hide something or cover something up that they didn't want the police to see? Like maybe a discussion or a conversation that they were having back and forth with each other while the unalivings were taking place?
I mean, I hate to even speculate on that, but yeah, it's I guess anything is possible. What are your thoughts on that? What brings you to that conclusion, Robert? Like, why are you speculate that they would have erased or?
Just the key wording there in the PCA. The key word, if they would have been viewing the text messages, it would have said, after a forensic download and review of the text messages. It doesn't say that.
Doesn't say after review text messages, after forensic download. Yeah.
After forensic download and review of their records.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm glad they're going by the forensic download.
And see what I can't figure out is why the photography class had a camera out there behind the house running for 12 hours.
I think what's funny about the photography camera is that when you read their Facebook post, they say they say something along the lines, we are the photography group and we have a right to post things and not tell you why. And I'm thinking to myself, why do they have that right? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but I just think that's funny.
But at 2 a.m. on their camera, they spotted a female running from beside the house as a car pulled up in the driveway.
Well, I didn't hear the car pull up part. Wow. Now, are you, the car pulled up part, that was in the
That was Kaylee and Maddie. Kaylee and Maddie pulled up at 156. According to the photography class, they spotted someone on their camera running away from beside the house at 2 a.m. right as Kaylee and Maddie pulled up.
Do you want me to play you the clip? Because I actually never heard anything about a car pulling up. They did not mention that in any of the Facebook posts, but they did mention the woman running naked. I have the exact post if you want to hear them.
Yeah.
Want to hear them? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm just going to pull that up. I'm going to mute you too. Hold on. Robert, how's the weather? I know you were having a storm watch over there last time you were on the show.
It's sunny and 80 degrees.
Beautiful.
Now, my neighbor across the street, half of his tree is laying in his yard.
Oh God! Did the tornado come through your area?
No. Luckily, the tornado bypassed my town, but we had like 73-mile-an-hour wind gusts come through, and that's what took half of his tree down.
Good God. Well, praise the Lord, you guys are all set. All right, you guys, I'm going to pull this up. So this video, it's currently not available to you folks. It's probably my most popular live stream I've ever done. It has like 11,000 views, but I had to make it members only just for reasons I won't get into right now, but it will be public again one day. Anyway, the very last one is, as far as I know, every post from the photography group before they were taken down off of Facebook. So you tell me if I'm missing something, but this is all I've heard. All right. Hold on, I gotta pause you. I gotta mute you. Oh, thank you. Okay. This is odd. I don't feel like we have sound. There. This is really weird. I don't have sound. All right, I have another video. I don't know. Maybe I actually cut out the sound. I'm wondering. I do.
There's a student that revealed he was in a remote photography group, which is kind of vague. I don't know if that's a after school sort of group or if it's a class that you're earning credits for. Is this some sort of extracurricular thing? But there's a student that revealed he was in a remote photography group, which is kind of vague. That, I mean, I don't know if that's a after school sort of group or if it's a class that you're earning credits for. Is this some sort of extracurricular thing? But this student wrote in a forum, which then was taken down. But I have screenshots of the archived conversation where they're talking about this group has a camera on a tripod somewhere behind the King Roadhouse, and it was recording during the night of the crimes. I'm going to read you what the convo was about, and then you guys decide for yourself what you think. Now, I've done videos on this in the past, but I didn't actually have the screenshots of the archived conversation, but I found them now. And so I'm going to read them here, and then you guys can discuss in the comments what you think. I just
What is going on?
found out my remote photography group has video from a tripod that was stationed behind the house.
I know.
It recorded from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and shows a woman running from the side of the house as a truck entered the driveway. She ran away from the house
Robert,
and
you're
right by
right.
our tripod at approximately almost, but not completely accurate or exact, roughly 2 a.m. A group member removed the tripod, and I don't know who has the video. It is the group's right to not disclose why we record, but we would send in recordings in special circumstances. Okay, this is so messed up. I don't even know where to begin, but it continues. So another person writes, then call the LE and give them your information, which sounds like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't they have done that? Unless they were afraid of turning it in. And then it continues. Another poster writes, quote, group member reported the video was sent to Idaho State Police. Our group has been removed from FB for various policy violations, end quote. And then that's all I have. The group didn't follow up on this conversation. And I know other people were talking about.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Robert's right. So that's something I've never heard before. That the camera actually caught somebody pulling in. That's huge, Robert. You're on mute. I can't unmute you.
Yeah. When I heard that, I'm like, wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. Because that's the first time I've ever heard that too.
And what that implies to me is that, what that implies to me is that there's another camera that was facing the parking lot. Because we're sitting here talking about all the possible angles of cameras that we heard about at the beginning. And here's one that actually is facing the parking lot. I said it saw a truck pulling in at 2 a.m. So that wasn't Kaylee and Maddie then, right? That had to have been Dylan, right? Robert? Sorry.
I said possibly.
What? Maybe the chat could let us know. What was DM?
Daniel said, this is made up. This is made up. I'm aware of the cams on the house. It's not one. Did anyone verify who the photography student is, or is this from someone's anonymous? Someone's anonymous.
Hold on, whose comment are you commenting on? Tell me the timestamp on it so I can pull it up.
It's Daniel from Drunk Turkey.
What time? What's the timestamp on it?
It doesn't show a timestamp. I think it's a newer one that he just did.
Heather says, I think that is my. All right. Well, this is a great, Robert, by bringing this up, inadvertently is segueing us into It wasn't you? Great. That's probably why I couldn't find the clip, Mikey, as I was going back through all your emails looking for it. Okay. Well, I'll find it and I'll play it on the next live stream. Upside Down says they think you need to turn your volume down a bit, maybe. I think it's got the whole family home and it's a lot of background noise. Latent has nothing to do with bioresidue unless it has been present as such. Here we have a latent footprint which was found in bioresidue. Without that distinction, it could be anything. I'm just looking down to see what else we have. Deanne was high, apparently, allegedly, before I read this one. She didn't even know anything happened. She intentionally obstructed justice and should be. I can tell you, Paco, that a lot of people feel the same way. All right, Robert, we're going to get into some cameras. Hold on. Okay, Robert, I think this one's for you from Texas Ranger. It says, this dude's been listening to Pavarotti guy. So I thought that was interesting. I think that Pavarotti is kind of seeing along the same lines, too, of what you were saying in your last video. Do you want me to, let's see, do you want me to show a little bit of one of your videos, Robert?
Yeah.
Which one do you want me to show?
The newest one where I talk about the PCA. That first one where it says clues into chaos.
All right, so let me see. So this is a 20-minute video, and
you can play the next one of them because the other two are short.
This one is the one I have not seen yet. Let's put this on because I want time to talk about the cameras too, but I thought, we'll give you a chance so people can see although some of your theories are quite similar to Pavarotti's, you have your own style and your own take on things. And as a community, we kind of like to build off each other's thoughts. So,
Hey, listen, guys. If we go throughout our entire life believing everything that the mainstream media says, especially in a high-profile murder case, we would be like lemmings. They want us to believe that this man right here is a cold and sadistic murderer, which he isn't. He's not. And they want us to believe that she is this innocent soul that's traumatized over the death of her housemates And personally, I don't believe a word she says. We're supposed to believe that at the time a 20-year-old college student who supposedly suffered from 8 hours of frozen shock phase, which is not an actual terminology. If it is, they want us all to believe that she was scared and everything else, and she saw the killer, as she quotes, he had bushy eyebrows, he stood 5'10" or taller, and he was athletically built but not muscular. Personally, I don't believe anything that she says, and I don't believe anything that she says either, which is Bethany Funk,
Well,
who was on the first floor the night of the unalivings, and she's really a non-factor in this case because she was on the first floor.
Robert, I want to hold on, let me unmute you. I wanted to pause for a second there because I've been thinking so much about Bethany's role in this lately, and I want to show you something. Hold on. So, like, when I look at these pictures, okay, they're staring outside of Bethany's window right there. Like, why are they staring at this window so intently? And then if you look at right there, there's like a little piece of tape in her window. And usually that's an evidence tape, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, I think to myself, it's on the inside. Like, what is that? Is that, did the perpetrator shed his clothes right outside her door and get evidence on the door? I also made another, just speculating here, could the perpetrator actually have gone into Bethany's room and possibly, left a fingerprint there? Or somebody pointed something out really interesting. Let me show you this other photo of her right there. Now that's at the top of her window. Could the perp have scaled down? There are actually pictures of people using that side ladder to get up onto the second floor to hang out on the roof. So it's plausible to climb up and down off of that first floor roof. Could Bethany's, window been the area where the perp went by? Another report we've heard is that at 8:30 in the morning, the door was left open. And so when Bethany, although we don't see any role she has, I've just been thinking so much, what role does Bethany have? What brought up the whole exculpatory evidence thing? Could she have seen someone run by her door, just like we've heard in these foreign reports of the naked man running by the door, for instance? Could the 12 gauge said the other day, could she have taken out her phone and started recording out the window as if she heard a noise? There's a couple thoughts. You want to rebuttal before I start the video again?
Well, the way I see it, they don't. Bethany hardly talks in this PCA. The only thing that they really mention about Bethany is the forensic digital download of her cell phone. And yes, Dylan and Bethany was not only interviewed by the MPD, but also the ISP and the FBI. So they went through 3 different interviews. And what I'm kind of curious about is why, after the interview with the FBI, why did they both lawyer up like right after that? And Bethany went to Reno, and then Dylan went to Boise. And that's the last time you ever heard about Bethany. the only time she ever spoke up was when she was trying to fight the subpoena to come back and testify, because she did not want anything to do with the case. She didn't want anything to do with Idaho. She just wanted to move past everything that happened that night, which I don't understand. You know, 4 of your friends were brutally murdered. Why would you not want to have anything to do with the case?
Well, I'll tell you why I wouldn't want anything to do with the case is if the FBI was interrogating me and they made me feel like I was a suspect. I mean, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't have anything to do with the case, but I certainly would change the way I spoke, you know, speak minimally and say only what, I mean, that's a scary thing, you know. And that is, I'm trying to find it. Like we were talking about at the beginning of this, I have that clip of Dylan's friend. And now that Mikey says it wasn't him that sent it to me, I'm trying to figure out who did. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a minute. But yeah, and I didn't realize it was those 3 separate interviews. I wonder, I heard it was after the FBI interviews when she decided to get a lawyer. And yeah, those are really good points. Thank you for bringing that up. And I saw AR was in here. Just wanted to say, hey, good morning to AR. Thanks for being here. All right, let's get your
Good
video.
morning, brother. How are you doing today? And yes, I don't know if they've already talked to her, but the defense team was wanting to talk to Bethany because she had exculpatory evidence on the night of the unalivings. She may have exculpatory evidence that could exonerate Bryan. But she has lawyered up and is not saying nothing to nobody. Her lawyer tried to get the subpoena quashed because, and I quote, Ms. Funk does not live in the state of Idaho anymore. She does not want to have anything to do with this case, and she does not want to testify. Now, it makes me wonder if Miss Bethany is scared because there was an 8-hour gap between the time of the unalivings and the call to 911. And maybe she's scared of an obstruction of justice charge for that delay in calling 911. And as far as Dylan goes, we may not get to see her testify. If she does, it's going to be a miracle. And if she does testify, then she's going to get ripped apart by Ann Taylor on the witness stand. And we do what we do, not for Dylan, not for Bethany, not for the, I call them the lamestream media. We do it for Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. They deserve justice. And with everything going on in this case, we may not get justice for them. We don't know. You have Bill Thompson, who is throwing tantrums during court hearings because Ann Taylor's finally putting him in his place.
So, Robert, this is a really good video. You're talking about the hearing. Are you talking about the hearing that we just heard?
Yes.
Conklin? Yeah. When that hearing was over, how did you feel that the testimony, how did you feel that the testimony came off to the public from both Ann Taylor and the witness?
Oh, you're talking about Detective Mallory? I thought he
Yeah.
put his foot in his mouth. I thought he put his foot in his mouth through almost the entire hearing.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, what I would like to know is, why do we still have the gag order? Because their supposed suspect is in custody. There's no need for the gag order now. I think it's Bill Thompson not wanting the public to know exactly what's going on in this case.
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about the system to say either way. I do know that I think the gag order, certain things are still agreed upon by the defense though too. So I don't know if they want to necessarily remove the entire gag order or if they want just some stuff to be admissible now.
Yeah, I'm still shaking my head at this entire case.
I'm going to show you something. Pull up here. I'm reading through some of our comments too here. Dean says, and Dean, that's so funny. I was just looking at an email you sent me. Dean has had quite a few good leads on the lane. Drunk Turkey Show. Why don't you ask Kaylee's mom? Is that Kaylee's voice on the audio at Linda Lane at 145? Say good dog. I have so many questions about Linda Lane. Chaos Sector brought up the best question the other day, and because I was reviewing my live stream from the other night, and Chaos was like, they were like, well, who originally leaked the Linda Lane footage? And that was the question. So just mute you for a second. So Chaos was asking who originally leaked the Linda Lane footage. And so we were trying to trace our steps back. Okay, Veritas, Powerpuff Girls, these were the places we originally saw it. And then we know who the owner of the complex is. But here's the thing is, like, it's under a gag order, and it would have been under a gag order. So the question is, was it law enforcement that leaked it? Or is it not actually evidence? Is it not actually from that day? Is the audio not actually, I mean, if it was actual evidence, then we're talking about a leak. We're not just talking about somebody giving some of their evidence. It was leaked after it became evidence. So who leaked it and why? And Chaos says they're not covering the case anymore, but these were some of the last questions that Chaos was asking me before they left. So I thought I'd bring that up. Sorry, I muted you, Robert. What? Any thoughts on that?
Well, well, I first saw it on True Crime Design, and she actually left the raw Linda Lane footage in her description. So that's how I saw it. I actually went back and watched all 5 hours of the Linda Lane footage on True Crime Design.
I wonder what the watermark is on the back of that. Because I've never, you know what I mean? Like, if it came from Veritas, I'm not going to pull it up right now, but if somebody's watching and wants to go see what the watermark on, who would you say was True Crime Design?
Yeah. Because she has the actual raw footage in the link to her Linda Lane footage.
I'm just looking to see if there were any comments about that before I switched over. Daniel says he knows who leaked. My husband just texted me and says that Daniel knows who leaked the Linda Lane footage. Daniel, would you like to tell us in the chat? We have some guesses, Robert, don't we?
Yep.
I'm going to play your video while I'm looking through these chats, so we're not just having dead air.
Okay.
Okay, Robert?
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to turn the volume down a smidgeroo. There we go.
And you have the court hearing this coming Thursday, I believe. Well, next Thursday, the 24th. And I'm going to do my best to live stream that. But this actual case may not go to trial for several years. Yes, it's been 17 months since the atrocity, but we may not see an actual trial date for another few years because they're pushing for summer of next year. And Ann Taylor is saying she may not be ready by the summer of next year. So you may not see the actual trial until at least 2026 or 2027 if things are going the way they're going. And don't get me started on the whole PCA, which was done by Brett Payne. I don't believe anything that Brett Payne says. I don't believe anything Dylan says in the PCA. You have a 20-year-old college student go, I saw a man clad in black. I mean, what kind of person says clad in black? I think Dylan was coached throughout the entire PCA by Brett Payne and possibly Blaker. That's the only thing that could have happened was she was coached. Because the night of the unalivings, she didn't have a timeline. Maddie and Kaylee had a timeline. They were at the grub truck. They were at the corner club in the grub truck. Zane and Ethan were supposedly at the frat party from 9 to 1:45. And that's where Bethany was as well, because she saw them there from 9 to 1:45. But Dylan didn't have a timeline that night. All they said, she was out on the town. And she met up with Dylan and Bethany. I should say, Bethany met up with Dylan around 1 a.m. and went back to the house. So how could Bethany see Xana and Ethan at the frat party until 1:45 when she was back at the house with Dylan at 1 a.m.? That's just something we'll never know about. And why was the Vandal alert put out at 1:30 and then retracted 3 hours later if there was no threat? Then why was Bryan arrested in his mom and dad's house in the middle of the night if there was no threat? Yet, why raid the PA home at night if there was no threat? Remember, guys, we do this for Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan.
I'm muted. I just wanted to comment back. I saw this comment in the live chat. There is no fake audio in this case that we know of, because it's case evidence. But here's the thing: is if it is case evidence, it's leaked. And that's a serious leak, and we'd like to know who leaked that evidence. Chaos Sector brings up a really good point. It should be a big deal if this is major evidence and it got leaked, other than this isn't real audio, or this is faked audio, and the footage is real, or altogether this is a different day that we're looking at than that night. I'm just putting it out there because, I think Chaos brings up some really good points, and I don't know if that's true, or it could be real. It could be a real leak. There was a lot of footage obtained early on by sleuths. So could this have been obtained by a sleuth and then handed to the LE, and then this second copy given? And I don't know why I'm speculating, because Daniel says he knows. I just probably haven't gotten there yet. Hold on, let me unplow this. Robert, have you read in the chat yet where the Linda Lane footage came from?
According to Daniel, it was sold, and he has receipts.
That would make sense. God. Okay, I'm going to find that. Well, I'm going to play your video while I find it. That makes sense.
If there was no threat, guys, then why raid a home in the middle of the night? Around the same time the murders happened. 3 a.m. And if there was a threat, why retract the vandal alert 3 hours later? It was a shelter in place at 1:30. 3 hours later, the shelter in place was lifted, citing no threat to the public. Just stay vigilant. That don't make no sense. The Moscow Police Department, according to Steve G., was in over their heads from the get-go. Because this is the first time in a decade that a murder of this magnitude has happened in Moscow. And just like Steve G mentioned, standing outside that police station, he paid the bill. He paid for it. He sent his daughter to college. She came back in a box. And according to Steve G, the injury patterns did not match. Now, was it the injury patterns of Kaylee that didn't match? Or was it the injury patterns of Maddie that didn't match? In my opinion, this whole case needs to be scrapped and go back to day one.
Heather, I think this is what you're referencing. So Heather, it says, do you know Ann Taylor owns those properties right across the street from 1122 King Road? I wonder which properties, the 712 and the 710? I could have just texted you that,
because
sorry.
Just like Ann Taylor, who wants to know how Bryan came in their crosshairs, I would like to know the same thing too, because I don't believe it. Like always, like and subscribe to my.
Okay. Yeah, make sure to give Robert's channel a visit and like and subscribe to his channel, and check out his other videos. He has some really popular videos out there. All Idaho 4 based. He also covers some other true crime. All right, so I was thinking I'd take you guys on a tour of the 712, what I know about the 712 camera. So Robert, do you want to hang around while I do that? Oops, I just muted you, sorry.
Yeah, And I will say this: Dan Esty, the one that owned 1122 King Road, he owned all those houses on that corner. 1122, 1112, 1118. Everything on that corner where the King Road house was, he owned all of that. And the name of his LLC was 1122 King Road LLC. And right after the unalivings, when he donated the house to the university, he sold all of the properties there around the house.
Well, it's funny because I have something in my hand right now that says that Taylor LLC owned 118 King Road, 128, 118. I'm sorry, 1118. There's a red line through it. I'm sorry, and it looks like 1126 and 1127, and then there's another block next to the 500 owned by.
He sold that to them.
It's a weird like connection. I feel like so close to the case. Weird.
Yeah, because about a week after the unalivings, Dan Esty sold all of his properties.
I would, I would imagine there were some transactions right after this, but I don't know if that's suspicious or not, but it's interesting. Hold on. So she's saying right across the street. I can show you, I have a virtual tour I can show you guys. Oh, reload. Let me pull up my virtual tour from that Mikey sent over. So I'll go to the street view. All right, let me see if I can get my bearings with this photograph. So okay, I can see the 500 Queen Roads, 500s in this picture. Hold on. Do it like this. So it looks like, hold on. I think according to this picture, it would be these two buildings. No, that can't be right. I don't know. Because this is Queen Road. What am I thinking? It's King Road. I don't know. But while we have this virtual tour up, this will be a good way for us to segue into our next segment, which is how I got to the 712 camera that I was showing pictures of. So let me show a picture of that real quickly to pique you guys' interest in what I'm about to talk about. And I just got a new comment probably on the stuff I just said that was completely inaccurate. 3 comments. Oh, somebody's telling me to check my email. Okay, hold on a second. Let's take that down. Oh, actually, I'm really, really glad that I checked my email. Oh, I've actually got quite a few emails since then. And then Dean just sent me one too. Hold on a second. I have to read this email, Robert. I'm going to play the rest of your video because there's something that's time sensitive in this that somebody put up regarding Kaylee. So I'm just going to stop my camera and I'm going to play the rest of your video. Oops, sorry. And I'm just going to read this quick email because it looks like it pertains to this show, okay?
A channel. Hit the notification for any new uploads. And make sure you share this channel. You guys have a good weekend. Peace.
Okay. All right. I was mistaken. It was somebody asking me. So it was just somebody bringing up that to look into that timestamp on Linda Lane where it sounds like it's Kaylee's voice, and just imploring to Daniel, if he's watching, for that timestamp on Linda Lane to see if that's Kaylee asking her dog to sit. And I did put a star next to it inside of the chat. So we can go back and look at that in a second. So anyway, before I get to the cameras, there was something I wanted to show all of you today that I think is a really important subject. And so this is like a little off subject from what we were talking about, but A.R. Hayes from A Convict's Thoughts recently released a video. It's his most current video, and I shared it with my channel this morning because he's talking about the guilt that's being placed not only on BK's parents, but also the microscope that's being put on the victim's parents. And just talking about somebody who has a little bit of life experience, who can tell you from that perspective what that feels like, what that looks like, what the real life repercussions are. But also, we have all these questions about BK and if he might have cleaned his car, if his parents might have suspected him. And I think AR points out some things I actually hadn't thought of before. So with that, yeah, Robert, if you'd like to stick around, I'd love for you to hear it. I actually picked, it's about a 2 to 3 minute segment in the middle of his video that I wanted to show. So
Yeah.
Have you seen this video yet? It's called Are the Kohbergers Guilty? Or something.
Yes, I watched it last night.
Really good. Okay, let's go to my channel. And it's in my community tab if you want an easy place to get to it down here, everybody watching.
Why do so many questions in regards to the Kohberger family keep rolling out in the wind as if they are guilty of committing a quadruple homicide? You have a family in pain as well, a father, a mother. Their 2 daughters have to endure everything that our society and communities are putting them through, with the question after question after question, and the pointing of fingers, actually even potentially accusing them as the ones that potentially called in a tip on their very own family member, Bryan Kohberger. I shake my head because I get it and I understand. The victims' families, they're in pain. They've endured so much because of the loss of their children. And we all hold them dear in our hearts, and we're all seeking true justice for their children. The pain is real. We get it. We understand it. And many of us give them leeway to act and speak as they wish. But at the end of the day, why are so many still digging into the Kohbergers? You don't think that they're in pain as well? Their only son sits in a jail cell in Latah County accused of a quadruple homicide, a horrific crime. He hasn't been proven guilty yet. But it sure sounds, by the way I hear people speaking and by what I read constantly on the social platforms of people pretty much making them the Kohbergers.
I just wanted to get the intro out, and now I'm going to play between, if you guys want this part between 14 minutes and 16 minutes, I think is so relevant to so many things we talk about. So think about a couple of the topics that have been kind of trending with the Idaho 4 lately. Was BK wearing gloves? Did he clean out his car? Did his sisters in the middle of the holidays go look at the car? I think these are some points that maybe you might not have put into perspective before. So this is really why I wanted to play the video. Just wanted to set that up before I played it.
His car? Common sense. Common sense. Possibly him. That they went out to check his car. Do you know how silly that sounds? Do you know how silly that sounds? That the sisters were so concerned that Bryan Kohberger could potentially be the mass murderer that took all 4 lives in Moscow, Idaho, that they pranced their little selves out of the house around the holidays, right around Christmas, to go check his car. Common sense. Common sense. I scream this on a daily basis. Common sense. His sisters didn't have to go out and check the car. One, the father rode home 2,500 miles across the country in that very car. You don't think he would have got a sense there was something wrong if there was blood splatter or issues within that car? You don't think it would have been noticeable? I mean, on top of that, don't you think if the sisters were really that concerned that Bryan Kohberger could potentially be the quadruple homicide individual in this case, and they felt as though he had done it, that their entire family would feel the pressure that they could potentially be at risk? They could potentially be in danger, because once an individual has taken 4 lives and they're legitimately on the run, and Bryan Kohberger's, he's got some brain cells up there. He would have known with the 2 pullovers on the way across the country that they were potentially onto him. That would put his family at even more risk and danger. But more so of that, Kohberger's entire way of dealing with day-to-day life moving forward would have changed, to the point his family wouldn't have had to creep out of the house to go look at his car to know there was something wrong. They would have sensed it within Bryan Kohberger and the family that they seem to be, the loving family, would have most likely done the same thing as my family. They wouldn't have picked up the phone and dialed the number to the authorities to give their concerns. No, they would have done the same thing my family did with me. Stood right eye to eye before me, my family, looked me in the eye and implored me to either turn myself in or call the authorities myself and discuss my potential involvement.
Right.
I get it. Everybody wants to say he was acting odd. He was wandering around the house in his drawers, packaging stuff up into baggies and throwing it in the garbage. Okay, it was the neighbor's garbage. So be it. So what? My issue with all of that conversation that's going on and all the people pointing at his family as being the ones that turned him in, that they were concerned and blah, 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 blah. They spent the holiday with him. They spent Christmas with him. He was there for a while. And if the investigators and everybody had all this issue with the things he was doing, where's all the recording of it? Where's the pictures? You know, and I watched everybody talk about the fact that he wears gloves, he does this, he does that. Do you know how many OCD people literally do that? There are so many OCD people. It actually almost reminds me of an old movie that had Jack Nicholson in it, where he's an old man with a little dog, and he had Helen Hunt come over and watch his apartment or go on a trip with him or something. And that man wore gloves and that's portrayed in a movie. So now all of a sudden, we know very OCD people like that do it on a constant basis. But because it was Bryan Kohberger,
Yeah, right, Jeff?
that's a sign of guilt. And his family must have known, because their OCD son had a pair of gloves on his hands while separating trash. God forbid somebody wouldn't want to touch trash.
I think that's
But it just kind
the perfect line to leave off on. So, I mean, I don't want to hijack AR's entire video from his channel, but I want to show you this because it's a really fascinating subject. And sometimes you have to know who to trust when it comes to information. And when you, sorry, AR, I don't mean to pause you while you're making like a half smile right
of
there.
makes me.
Yeah, so I just think it's a fascinating video. So please go watch it in its entirety. And again, you can find that on my community tab, AR Hayes Convicts Thoughts, and just travel it back. It's like a 26-minute video. So you get a really good, in-depth perspective on that. So please go check that out. And I thought from here we'd segue into talking a little bit more about the camera because Mark B is here. And Mark B was one of the first people who brought this subject up to me. So I'm glad he's here. And I think he's referencing this photo that I just put up. And I'll get it back up here. That's not the one, but this is going to be the picture I show you in a moment. So this was hey, Mark, I just saw your message. This was the camera that we were originally talking about. And I did a video on it recently called the 712 camera. And I really was inspired to do this video because Mikey sent me these pictures and he had some great high definition pictures of it I had not seen. And I thought I'd bring them to you guys. Just looking to see what the new comments were. And so what I thought I'd do is Mikey gave me permission to show you the receipts of where he got this photo from. And so I'm going to do that for you today. Before we do, let's take a look at the angle that this camera would have seen. So this is kind of the angle. Oops, let me take that comment down. This is kind of the angle, more or less, that this camera would have seen. So it's incredibly important because it captures the high side of the house and it captures the front of the building. It also kind of captures partially the backyard. So if we think about what we know about the case, we know that Olivia Kaylee's older sister, saw some sort of footage of her walking the dog. She also saw footage of Kaylee getting dropped off that night. So if I had to surmise what camera she was looking at, it couldn't have been one way out back that we don't know about, because it wouldn't have been able to catch her getting dropped off that night on the side of the road. They didn't pull into the driveway. It also referenced in the PCA, I'm gonna pull that up. Nope, that's the wrong letter. It also, in the PCA, it references the car basically almost parking and doing a turn right in front of the 1122 King Road home. So we know that it would have to be something pretty much from this angle where it was caught. And let me just pull out and give you kind of a street view of what we're looking at. And then I'm going to show you a little video where that picture is clipped from. So if we go like this, this is kind of the street angle you're going to see. So I'm just familiarizing you with these buildings. And when I actually showed this on X, it was interesting. I had an X user follow me and share one of my photos that 12 gauge, let me just take this picture down, 12 gauge had actually sent me. So I'm going to bring up my my profile real quick. So down here on my profile, one of my X users had shared, find it, this photo right here. Where is it? Let me go to my notifications. Right here. So 12 gauge had provided me this, and this is allegedly the owner of the 712 camera handing off the chip. Now, I don't know the police officer. I don't know the name of this person. This says allegedly right on the photograph, but I thought I'd provide you that too, all the receipts that I have. And now hey, Robert.
There was a thought I had after watching AR's video.
Yes.
How would his dad be able to drive clear cross country with him if there was DNA in the car? His dad would have spotted that immediately and wouldn't have rode back with him. Yeah, I don't think there's any forensic anything in that car, or else his dad would have changed his mind about riding clear cross country with him.
And I mean, we look at that car, and it's not like we've seen photographs of the inside of that car. We don't see a lot of. Well, let's profile the car for a second. This isn't a car that's driving around with a bunch of rubbish all over the floors, a bunch of empty coffee mugs, and this is a clean car. And there wasn't debris hiding the floor and hiding the seats and hiding the console. So it was clean. And so his father would have sensed something. I would believe. I mean, again, I don't know if I necessarily believe that much DNA even moved. If it was Bryan, that it would have been able to make it back in the car. If what Steve G has said is true, there was a kill kit. But that's a really good point. I hate the even thought of implying any of the Kohbergers in this. Nobody would ever imagine that their family member, if he is the person, was involved in something like this. They wouldn't have the sense to do that. But I think what you're saying is he might have a sixth sense. Like he might just kind of know, like deep down, or are you saying like he physically would have seen evidence in the car? I don't know.
Well, he did drive 2,500 miles back with Bryan, so he would have been able to spot something in the car, like blood on the car mats or anything, and there was not anything in that car. that would even give him a clue something happened.
Yeah.
And he was real chatty with both of those Indiana troopers that pulled them over twice. If he would have had even a suspicion, he would have said something to the troopers, and he didn't.
And remember
I wish.
Oh,
what?
sorry. What? I was gonna say, remember when I was on your show the other day, and the Maven was on there, and she said we were talking about a different case to fill the viewers in, and she was we were wondering, in this other true crime case, had the perp been spending the night in there the night before? And what the Maven was telling us is that people can, even though you can't see, sense, or like hear somebody in your home, sometimes somebody's in there, because as a human, we actually have our sense of smell can pick up on the smell of that human, and we might not know what's going on or why we do, but we know somebody's in our presence sometimes because of that. And so, I mean, I wonder, could it be the same thing? Like, would he have picked up on that just as a human, having that sixth sense or whatever?
Yeah, you're talking about the Jennifer Kessie case that we covered the other night on live.
Yeah.
And since we covered it, there has been five other content creators covering it too.
Oh, you know what? I give you so much credit, Robert, because you really opened that case back up so people would start talking about it again. I'm glad you brought that into the spotlight. So if you guys don't know, a victim's advocate reached out to Robert to cover this case, and he took it on really quickly and did a really thorough job covering it. I give you lots of credit for what you've done.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And then Jeff says, "I don't agree. I think that's cool. It's a beautiful thing that we all have different." I agree. I mean, isn't that how you figure things out? Is bouncing them off, making yourself sharper with all of your points. You should be able to, if what you're saying holds water, you should be able to bring it up to other people and have them be able to replicate your thoughts or rethink your thoughts. BK purchased the ticket before Bryan was even in Pullman. Okay. Cops were not perfect in this case, not even close. Let's see. Yeah, we don't really know what the case is, to be honest. That's what scares me, is if these officers, any officers lying, they need to be fired. Even if people that are supposed to serve and protect us are lying, they need to lose their job. Well, absolutely. The system is only good as the people running it.
The comment Jeff just made, there was a whole lot of time to clean that Elantra.
There was a whole lot of time to clean that Elantra. But like Gia says something really, okay, so these are all sorts of questions that I have for somebody who knows about forensics. So let's talk about the touch DNA. So what Gia was telling me is that if somebody has DNA on their body, so like say there wasn't a kill kit, say that Dickie's jumpsuit wasn't shed and he still had DNA on him, when he puts that buckle on, like all of that DNA goes back up into the buckle thing, for instance. When you turn the vents on, all these things that you do, they, well, the vents not so much, because there has to be some sort of friction for transfer on the touch DNA. But it's nearly impossible to clean those things up. But were they even there in the first place? Because if you somehow found a way to shield yourself from your DNA getting into the scene and the DNA getting on you, and he shed those articles of clothing, would there even be anything to really clean up? I unmuted you, sorry.
Like his car seat, like you just said, when he got in and sat down and buckled up, it would be on his car seat.
Okay, so Jeff gives an analogy. After surgery, a surgeon removes all of their bloody clothing and heads down to the cafeteria to get something to eat. I don't believe there's anything bloody left on their utensils after. Okay, so I can tell you, as somebody who has worked in a lab before, a little bit about how that particular barrier. So sometimes like we have to do, I've had to do like infectious disease training when there were like, here's an example. There was an outbreak of Ebola, several years back. And they had to give lessons on how people put those garments on and took them off. And they would demonstrate to us how difficult it is to shield yourself from any sort of virus or bacteria. And they did it by spraying. They would give an example in a video and spray like chocolate on people's hands and say, okay, try and get this suit off without getting any chocolate on you. And you have all this protective gear you have to take off first, then you take off the suit and you take it off by hands. And even after that, even after all of those precautions, when every bit of you is shielded from, the example they were using was the Ebola, people were still got the chocolate on their hands. It was unreal. Like professionals who've been doing it, their whole lives, you have to be so careful with these protocols. And then afterwards, even after you take off that suit, you are required to wash up to the elbows with hand sanitizers and not just hand sanitizer, soap and water, because hand sanitizer is not even as effective as soap and water. So they don't just head down after taking all that stuff off. They realize like how much trace can get on them, in my personal opinion, from working in a hospital. And I didn't just work in a hospital, like I worked in a lab. Like I have training in the like where they process blood samples and different samples. Okay, the evidence put together: DNA, white car, cameras, pings, witness put all together. That's what puts BK in jail, like any of us would be, and then other things we don't know.
Yeah, the way I see it, I just had a thought that kind of left me.
It'll come back.
Expounding on, they always come back. But expounding on what you were just saying about the DNA. I don't technically believe that it was him in the house that night. Like I've heard numerous times, the sheath could have been planted. Because why would a PhD college student drive his own car, bring his cell phone, and then leave a key piece of evidence behind? Is he smart or is he stupid?
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, Robert. I know exactly what you're saying. It's that it's so unbelievable. The only good argument I've heard to that is when people speak about, I don't want to say the sociopathic, or sociopathic is the wrong word, but they talk about that personality of somebody who's capable of this. And all that I've heard from the profiling aspect is the people who have that lack of empathy, they also have a lack of empathy for themselves. So like some of the things that we would think are totally what's the word I'm looking for? Reckless behavior. They might not feel the same fear towards being caught that we might feel. And I'm not saying that that's so that could be the explanation, not stupidity, but just they don't have the same like mechanisms for fear that you or I might have, because they lack that empathy. And I'm just speaking in general about sociopaths and psychopaths who might be capable of doing this, not BK, just saying from a purely profiling aspect. They found, like you or I might say, oh, I don't want to bring my cell phone with me, I might get caught. But the arrogance of somebody who has like a sociopathic personality might not have that stopgate measure. I don't know. But I don't know also. I don't know.
Yeah, see, just like Ghost said, the DNA falls off brass in hours. And I agree with that 100%. But the part that gets me about the brass is Get a Clue called the manufacturer of the K-bar knife sheath. Excuse me. And Get a Clue found out that they actually
put a paint coating on those. And I can't remember if they said it was a ceramic paint coating or people were just guessing it was ceramic. But we don't know how DNA sticks to paint or sticks to ceramic paint. We just know how it sticks to brass. And then the other thing that they surmised from it, and I wasn't preparing on talking for this, so I don't have the soundbite, but the DNA was said to be in the trough. So inside the button, inside like where the button snaps, there's like a little trough. And it, obviously that itself that little space the DNA could get caught in that. And I'm just being devil's advocate here. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just trying to give the argument to what you're saying that I've heard people argue to me. Oh wait, is it possible?
Yeah, totally understandable.
I wonder, is there a connection between the T-Rev collar and the Idaho sliced roast beef guy? We're back to the ISRBG. I don't know, but I have my doubts about the ISRGB as anything but satire, because I found out that they were around during the Madeleine McCann missing child's case, and they were doing their satire thing back then too. So I don't know.
Mark B says, I think coding is only on the top button you actually push to snap on.
That's a good okay, that's a good observation. Let me see if I can find Mark's comment here. I'm at 153. Here we go. Yeah, so Mark says, I think the coding is only on the top button so you can actually push to snap. That would make sense. Maybe it would interfere with the ability to snap if it was on other places. But my thought would be, they're not going and painting little buttons, Mark. I'm thinking they take the brass button and dip each brass button, and that's how the part is made into, because I mean, I don't know how it works, but I mean, like, let's just say, a good analogy is you were shingling a cedar house. I mean, my husband's a general contractor. This is the stuff I know. And like some shingles come plain, but oftentimes for that finished look, you can get the dipped shingles. I'm sure he'll text me if I'm wrong in a second. But I wouldn't imagine they're painting the brass after it's been assembled. I would think it's dipped before. Just a thought. Robert, what are your thoughts? Oh, Rolo's here. Hello, Rolo. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to bring up that soundbite I was telling you guys about, talking about bringing some receipts for that 712 camera from Mikey. Hold on. Mark says, I've seen them with top buttons painted and other 3 components are brass. So that's right from somebody who has seen it themselves. So we can't really argue with that. The question I would have for you, Mark, is did you see them brand new, or did you see them after maybe the paint had been worn off, like after long-term use? Just a question. I'm not negating that you know. Deceptions. Oh my gosh, this is so confusing. How many hands were on this cast report? This is, oh my God, I'm just confused. So has the FBI responded? What I want to know is, with those class reports, when they're like entered into evidence because they showed it to the grand jury, does it tell in that final report how they got to the evidence, or does only that like session that police officer had tell how he got to that evidence?
Well, Brett Payne had a rough draft of the cast report, and what they showed the grand jury was the rough draft. The FBI still has the actual cast report.
So like with that draft though, the one that they presented to the grand jury, would it kind of tell though how they got to that conclusion? I just wonder what that final report looks like. And Jeff left this awesome comment, which kind of is I think like as a creator, I should pay attention to this because I'm sitting here like throwing out all this speculation. And Jeff says plainly, someone should call the K-Bar Knife Company like I did. I talked to a woman named Beth that said that there's something called pink enamel that's put onto the brass of the sheath. So we're not just talking about the ceramic coating that I was just talking about. Jeff says there's also this pink enamel. And I would imagine the pink enamel is probably pink just because it's like that gold tone. So they want to probably keep it like a gold tone. Yeah, that wouldn't really show up. So people might not even know it's there. Not contradicting you, Mark, but I wonder, Mark B, I wonder if you had seen that, if you had known if it's something that's even visible that you know is there. Okay, Roll's going to grill, and then Mark B says he can't remember. And then Upside Down says they may be coded as it's assembled as well. So there's a third option other than what I would say. Yeah, we don't have proof the murder weapon was a K-bar. They might have the K-bar though. Especially if they have, okay, so if the cast report is so precise, somebody else brought this up. Back to this comment. If the cast report is so precise that it could tell where, the difference between Wawa Way Park and the 1122 King Road house, would it also be able to tell where he stopped and got rid of the evidence? That's a question so, if it does, then potentially the police could even have the weapon or more evidence that we don't know about.
Twizzle Stick says, Cy says Cash has issues.
I'm funny. AT's asking to have let's say. Somebody said that they're wondering if it's the 712 cam that Ann's asking for too. Mikey says, half of the grand jury wanted more with no defense or argument, so how does anyone think that the prosecutor can convince a jury in a real court setting? That's a good one.
Well, see, just like that letter that the Gonzalez family put out after that one court hearing, which, I've had a chance to read, and it seems like they're getting a little bit uneasy with how the prosecution is kicking the alibi down the road. And they're also getting frustrated because they're having court hearing after court hearing where they have a motion, then they have a court hearing on it, then 30 days later they have another motion with another court hearing. The way I read that coming from the Gonzalez family is they just want this guy already in prison and already sitting on death row. And they're getting irritated at the fact that they haven't put this guy away yet, which I don't really agree with. And why is it that the Gonzalez family is the only family we hear from? You don't hear from the Mogans, you don't hear from the Chapins, you don't hear from the Knobles. Steve and Christy is the only family you hear from.
I have a theory on that, actually. I developed a theory on that a little while ago when I started thinking that Maddie was the target. What if, and this is just total speculation based on nothing, but what if Maddie was the actual target? And because Kaylee got so much publicity, they asked the Gonzalez's to continue going on just to make it appear that, the target wasn't who it actually was, which was Maddie, because they're just trying so hard to not let all their cards be played in this case. Because, I don't know if we can really even have the debate if BK was smart or stupid. We all know he was smart. I think I've said it before, like some of these classes that he was in, these advanced classes, like, I'm pretty sure you need at least 130 IQ just to do them. So we know he was smart. Anyway. All right, so let me bring up this other video. I was trying to get through all the comments because there's so many, and everybody's talking about the cast. Oh, I wanted to say one other thing. When I was talking about the murder weapon, and if the cast report is so accurate, could they find out where they stopped to get rid of the stuff? I think that one thing's really interesting. There's some wording in the search warrant about the K-bar knife sheath in or around or at the residence. I mean, it sounded... does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like I said, I wasn't prepared on talking about the knife sheath today, but I remember hearing that and thinking how odd that was, and other people bringing it up too. Interesting. Rolo says, Sy created that software used by the FBI himself, sold it to 2 of them for millions. I have some interesting information on the training that I'm going to bring up in my next live. So I'm glad you brought that up, Rolo. And I hope you can tune in for my next live, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the training for the cast reports. And then Deception says, oh, good, you're showing your face. Robert, we want to see your face. Come on.
Hello. Got my daughter running around the background.
Yeah.
She goes, Daddy, here's some popcorn.
I'm glad she's taking care of you. You're going to get Father's Day. We're going to get Father's Month.
I'm looking now.
So this comment says, so this comment says, I don't know a defense lawyer and I don't have enough money to hire one. And I probably wouldn't get one like Ann Taylor. And I'm telling y'all, I can't be locked up with a bunch of females. I don't know what that means, but I personally think Ann Taylor's a good lawyer. Like, I would want to get her. I think she's a pit bull.
Yeah, I know she's yeah, she is a pit bull, and it makes me laugh every time I see old Bill Thompson throwing a fit at the prosecution table because she's putting him in his place.
I will say, you know, I watched Lawyer, you know, and he has definitely said that he picked up on, it feels like the relationship between the two attorneys is definitely deteriorating. And the judge is like, whoa, kind of like, don't get me in the middle of this, kind of by some of the comments that he made. I thought that was interesting when I was watching his review of the hearings, the most recent hearings, the last month.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what the judge meant by, I don't even know if this case is going to make it to trial.
I don't know. I thought, personally, I've thought that meant the judge thinks there may be a plea deal in the works. But I don't know, Robert. What do you think? What do you think that means?
Maybe the judge sees this case like we all see this case. It's crumbling in Bill Thompson's hand.
I don't know. I have to keep holding off on the fact that I feel like there's so much more I don't know. And that's all I can go on, especially after I saw that evidence piece, that evidence number 4 that was recently given to me by Mikey, this right here. Let me just pull it up again. When I see this, I'm like, well, what else don't I know? I mean, obviously, this is a diagram of the house. It's been entered into evidence. I mean, that really is BK's, from paper from his house, from ink from his pen. Like, that's some serious evidence that I never knew about before.
Well, how would he even know the diagram of the house? He's never been inside.
That we know of, you know?
Well, it's someone who knew the interior of the house, knew the layout,
Yes.
And how many people pass through that house daily? A lot. There's some neighbors that complained because there was parties at that house 4 days a week. And a lot of the times, the roommates were not home. And we even saw evidence of it on body cam when Blaker was questioning Hunter Johnson and the other kid when they did that noise complaint, because there was none of the roommates were home. It was a bunch of people inside the house partying with nobody home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Blaker threatened to file breaking and entering charges on everyone in that house if they didn't start telling him the truth. Because just like Blaker said, you're telling me no one's home, you're having a party in someone's house with them not being home. Do you want me to? I could file breaking and entering charges on you guys since none of the other roommates are home.
But anyone could have wrote that map. You know, he could have been there on a day that nobody remembered him because obviously it was a house that people just frequented in and out of. He or anyone else that could have been an accomplice. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, anybody could have wrote that diagram. Anybody. Yeah, from the frats to the random person off the street. Anybody could have made that diagram of the house. Just like Twizzlestick just said, the map could have been given to someone that wasn't from Moscow.
There's so many comments, I can't find it. Hold on, what does Rolla say? Maddie and Xana were the main targets. We actually speculated on that earlier. I told Adam everything. That was in the tape, remember? What's Adam, a cop, just finished the academy. Who's involved? Cops that kept harassing 1122. There's documented complaints from the girls. Really? That's something I haven't heard yet, Rollo. Documented complaints from the girls. That's interesting. I would love to know more about it.
Well, they were harassed on a daily basis with noise complaints. And the night that Xana was standing out front, that was Brett Payne freaking asking her questions. Yeah. How old was she? Who all was in there? And Dylan and her boyfriend picked up their speaker and darted in the house through the sliding glass door. When Brett Payne shined his flashlight on them, says, "Hey, come here," and they both darted in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want to be the ones to talk to him. And then Kaylee reluctantly came out eventually.
No, that was Xana that came out the first time. Kaylee came out. I can't remember. It wasn't Payne she was talking to. It was somebody else. And his partner, because Hunter Johnson came out first, and then he went back in and got Kaylee. And when Kaylee came out, Hunter Johnson sat on that couch there on the deck with the zip ties around his wrists.
That's creepy.
And that was the cop that took the picture of Kaylee's ID. Why was he taking a picture of Kaylee's ID when they just came from a stop at 1127 and he didn't take a picture of nobody's ID down there?
Wasn't the noise complaint wasn't to 1127 though, was it?
Both 1127 and 1122.
I don't know.
1127 was a bunch of guys.
And they didn't pull out their IDs, or they pulled out their IDs and they didn't take a picture of them?
No.
Or they didn't pull out their IDs at all?
Now, one of the guys says, "Hey, do you guys want to see my IDs?" And the cops said no. And when they get to 1122 and they're talking to Kaylee, they ask for her ID.
That's interesting. That's a good question. That's a really good question, Robert. I didn't pick up on that before. Interesting.
And just like the night the cops were dumping out all that alcohol that they found in that backpack sitting by the house, sitting in front of the house. And one of the cops was shining his flashlight in that spare room, and he muttered, "Stupid effing kids."
He did?
Yes, except he didn't. He said the full thing. Stupid, you know what, kids.
Susan Crow. Hey, thank you for being here, Christy. Thank you for keeping the chat classy today, as always. Although we have such a great chat, we don't have to worry about it. My theory is if you let people say what they want and express themselves, they're not going to bicker amongst each other because they're able to express their feelings. That's a theory anyway. Or we could have just blocked all the trolls and the brats. I don't know.
Yeah, just like Bethany said, at Twizzlestick, they were called on the boys in the bottom who sat on the roof, then saw the King Road house and the big speaker.
I'm trying to find it. Who said it, Rolla?
No, Twizzlestick.
Does anyone? Okay, wait. Before I read it, hold on. He doesn't need to know the diagram. That's what you have. Someone that does know of this is what I think. He didn't stop them. Somebody else did, and he had never been in the house. So somebody. That's BK's diagram? Well, allegedly. Let's just show it again so people know what we're talking about.
Which BK though? There's two.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Jeff has just emailed me the key bar. All right, let me get the key bar for you guys. And then we'll get to the camera, I promise you guys. Gotta refresh my email box here. Oh, Jeff, I didn't get it. Oh, wait a minute for that. And while we're waiting for that to come up, because Jeff is going to get me some K-bar information, I have another video to play you guys. Another story brought to me by Mikey. So let me share my screen with you guys. And I'm just going to take Jeff's comment down really quickly. And I'm actually going to put a start because you guys, Twizzlestick and Jeff and Ghost were just talking about the, we'll come back to the diagram in a second. Well, we don't have to. Let me just read the rest of what we have. Ghost said, BK didn't know the layout. And then Twizzle said, watch the diagram, just say BK at the top, Kopaka fits into. And then Julie Dunn says, I think the G's are so vocal because Kaylee was the collateral damage. Because she was there, she was taken. This would have happened if she was there or not, and they want answers. Yeah, Jeff, a man of action and much respect. We always think that of Jeff. Why would he leave his own initials on it? I think it's the victim's initials. It wasn't. I didn't understand what you guys were talking about. I thought you were just saying BK and the two BK initials were similar, BK and Brent. It had
Hey, I just sent you something.
in my email.
Look at your share. No, look at your share on your screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on. What's this, Robert?
Who? That's who owns all the properties. That's who Dan Esty sold the houses to.
I must zoom in. There. Oh, there you go. Okay. And there's Ann Taylor LLC up there. And that's King LLC. Do you know what date this was created? Because this is King LLC 1122, and that was in the university's possession?
Yes, that's in the university possession. Dan Esty sold that, and that to Eagle Investments, which sold to Cottonwood. And Eagle Investments and Cottonwood are owned by the same person.
Who? But why does it say 1122 King LLC?
I can't remember his name. Because he gave that property to the school, and he never got it. He got it switched over after this was made. Eagle to Cottonwood are owned by the same Eagle Investments and Cottonwood Investments are owned by the same people. So the guy who owns Eagle Investments basically sold the houses to himself after Dan Esty sold him the properties, which is weird.
Nina in Discord says, development company needs contracts. University needs land for Greek living expansion strategy. So contracts for properties. Very well. Jeff, I still haven't gotten that to me yet. But we don't have to wait for that. I have that little blurb to show you on where I got the 712, where Mikey got the 712 footage. It's not everything, but it's enough for you guys to see where he sampled it from. I just got to make sure I don't dox myself. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at this one more time. So this is the best picture of the camera. And I just want to remind everyone, I don't know if Daniel is still watching, but Daniel mentioned he knows a lot about this camera and he's willing to take me onto his show to explain more about it, which I 100% would love to take you up on the offer, Daniel, so that I can learn more about this. But we were talking about this in the beginning, so it's fitting that we're coming to the end of our show and showing this. So this is the camera, the picture I was presenting to you guys of the 712 camera. And right here is the unpixelated version of that picture. And it comes from an actual soundbite that was done on November 19th with a reporter. Obviously. Shoot. Hold on. I have to stop sharing this for a second to get the timestamp. I have to go back into my email. Okay. 27:45. Okay.
Nina Kelly said that Steve Weeks owns both Eagle Investments and Cottonwood Development.
Who? Steve Weeks?
Steve, yes.
I don't know what that all means, but I know that a lot of you guys are digging in on that. And if you find anything, I'd really like to know. Okay, I'm going to hit play on this.
safe as we can, but we definitely aren't going to go home early.
The question of safety is on everyone's mind right now.
During a press conference this afternoon, and now serves.
Continues.
People across the country want to know what happened inside this home and why. For those living in Moscow, there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty. And how could there not be? 4 young college students were stabbed to death.
From 8 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Sunday.
So I'll slow it
Then,
down
over at the
as we
grub
get to
truck
the
on
camera.
Main Street at 1:40 a.m. 5 minutes later, the map says they returned to their home on King Road. I drove that route this afternoon, starting at 4th and Main and ending at the King Road home. With some light traffic on the road, I arrived at the house in about 3 minutes. This suggests it's reasonable to believe Madison and Kaylee traveled by car from the food truck.
Right here. We'll stop. See it? Right under the mark. And this was filmed on the November 22nd. Jeff, you wanted to see pictures of the camera. That I kind of am playing this for you. Let me take this down.
But that
There it goes, right there. Even better picture right there, you guys, because you can see it off to the side.
detail has not been confirmed by police.
Okay. Now, I do have one more to show you. And this was kind of just to corroborate the presence of the camera
Now,
there.
this was weird. It said Ethan and Xana was at the Sigma Chi party for an hour.
And that,
From 8
that
a.m.
report,
from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah, that picture you just showed, Ethan and Xana was at the frat party for an hour.
right? So
And they were all
in this
back at the house at 1:45.
Yeah, this report was back from the 22nd, November, and at the very end of this report, they're asking for additional information and tips. So it could have been before they actually had everything together. But you know, what you're saying just confuses me too, because I hear the confirmation for Ethan and Xana's alibi was Bethany. And I don't understand how they could have been looking for more information on that when they already knew that information from Bethany. And then I think for furthermore, I mean, they confirmed all of that, I would assume, through the cell phone information, or they knew they'd be able to confirm it through the cell phone information eventually. And it's a very confusing situation. I wonder, did Bethany confirm that after the fact? Because it sounded like she had a lawyer on retention. And when this all went down, the lawyer spoke first to the police. So could that be the reason why at that time they just didn't have all of the alibi, and after the fact she came back and corroborated that? I don't know. I don't know why you go searching for witnesses to tell you where the students were during that time when you know you would have their cell phone, which has that information on it. You would be able to obtain everything you needed from that cell phone. Why do you then need more witnesses to say where they were? These are just questions I have off the top of my head. It's not to point the finger or anything like that.
12 gauge wants to come up.
Oh, I'll drop a link. Hold on. There you go, 12. And then I'm trying to think if I had more to show you on that camera. Well, let me add 12 to the stage. 12, it says your device isn't connected. There you are. Hello, darling.
How y'all doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing
I'm
great.
doing okay. How you doing?
Hey, Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How you
I'm
doing,
still
12?
waiting for you to come over to my panel, man.
Robert,
welcome
he's
in-
waiting for you to come over to the panel.
You're welcome anytime.
Listen, let me know the next time you're live, man.
Well, tonight I'm going to be live, but I'm going to be talking about different stuff. I'm not going to be talking about Idaho 4, so maybe another time. But you're more than welcome. Both of y'all are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are talking about the 712 camera. That's very interesting because Kiki, you and I had discussed a little bit about how Olivia had discussed about being able to see Kaylee and Maddie arrive from the rideshare driver. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And is this the camera that would have seen that, you think?
I think for the rideshare driver, yes. The dog walking, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
What do you
Well,
think?
what about 118? What about 1118? Because that photo was leaked by Olivia and Steve Gonzalez. You know, the light bulb ring cam, which was like right next to Xana's room.
Um, 12?
I didn't catch all that.
Okay.
Well,
What about the 1118 ring cam, which was like the light bulb cam? Wouldn't that have picked up Maddie and Kaylee getting dropped off as well?
I've always had questions about that because that camera is facing west. So I don't know. It might have caught them coming up the road, but not necessarily seeing them in front of the residence. I've always had questions about that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Is that the one that you're talking about? The one
And
that's facing west?
yes. Um,
Yeah.
because supposedly Olivia and Steve G got to see that footage, and I believe it was Olivia who leaked that footage of that truck sitting there on King Road. I'm not 100% sure on that. That's just from what I heard. Is that it was Olivia and Steve G who leaked that footage of the truck sitting there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it would have. I'm sure it would have caught either the rideshare driver coming and dropping them off and then leaving the area. I'm sure it would have caught them coming and going, but I'm not for certain if it would have caught them like from across the street, like what we're talking about that 712 camera would have.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So the 500 cams, I think that's how you guys have dubbed them, or is it called the 500 cams? The ones that are on the up the street from the 712?
Yes.
Okay. What angle would that catch? Would it only catch the road coming from Linda Lane, or does that camera potentially have a view going down King Road as well? Like, would it be able to see parts of the house, or is that strictly for like a view of the road that the police would have caught from that?
Are you asking me or Robert?
You, but Robert too. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking you, 12. If you just seem to have a good bearings on the cameras, from what angles they were.
Well, I spoke with golf inspector and we were talking about this and we were discussing that probably that camera on the end of King or Queen Road, number 52, obviously is on the side. And there was another apartment building toward the back. I'm looking for the picture right now so I can show it a little clearer.
Okay.
But there's an apartment building right there on the corner. You know, as you round Queen Road apartments right there when the car rounds that corner. If you go straight ahead, there's a little apartment building right there that supposedly had a camera on it as well. Right on the side of that parking lot.
Am I showing the right spot right now on the screen?
Yes. You see at the very end of that road of Queen Road, that yellow door?
Yes.
Supposedly that's where another camera was.
You sent me pictures of that. Hold on. I bet I could pull those up actually. Bear with me, you guys. Because 12 actually knew I was doing this video a couple days ago, so he had sent me some things to check out. Okay, I've got them right here. Hold on. All right, I've got good pictures of these. Thank you. Let's go back to StreamYard and present the right screen. Here we go. So again, this is from 12 Gauge's channel, you guys, if you want to go check it out. And then, is this right? This little arrow points to where the apartment building you think the camera was allegedly at?
Well, that's what I was told. I was told that that's where early on in the investigation, that's where the camera was being investigated. That camera was supposedly facing toward the 1122 King Road house down that road. So it would have been able to capture a lot more coming and going. And at the end of that, do you see at the very end on that corner, that little apartment building?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you keep going up, that supposedly had the other camera.
Okay.
So there was actually two cameras right there, plus the 712, plus the 1118. So it has been stated to me by other people that these cameras were there, but once somebody went back on boots on the ground and was looking for them, they were gone.
I'm going to show you had another picture in here I wanted to ask you a question about when it comes to the cams. Hold on, I have to stop sharing my screen for a second so I don't dox myself. This one right here. I have a couple questions about oh, Robert's got his chihuahua.
I was wondering what that was, Robert. That's adorable.
It was really adorable. Thank you, Robert. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. This one right here. So I showed this in my last video. You provided me 12 gauge, and I put that it was alleged next to it. That obviously,
yes.
That's how you presented it to me. And somebody else shared it on X because it was a good. It's just a good all around picture. Do you have any knowledge of anything in this picture? For instance, who the guy in the red sweatshirt is, what cops these are, what date this is, and you happen to know anything like that about this picture off the top of your head?
This picture was sent to me because I was discussing the 712 camera myself, the little area. I do not know who that individual is with the red hoodie or the police officers. I just was told that this individual is handing over something like a SIM card or something of that nature. That's alleged. I have no way of verifying that whatsoever, but it looks like he is handing something over to the police department. I don't know. It could be a driver's license. It could be an ID. It could be anything, But I do not know who that individual is.
Yeah, and nor did I necessarily expect you to know. I just wanted to know if you knew anything more about it because people were asking, and I just thought I'd ask you while I had you here on the panel.
Right.
And what I'd really like to
it's hard. I've never deep dove that deeply into certain people and photos and things of that nature unless they're directly associated with the evidence that's being presented. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even state that this individual's handing anything over that's of importance, so I wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have been able to be somebody that I would have wanted to go and try to find more on. So,
I mean, one thing we can do is when we're all going back and looking at the footage, we have this image. We know it's from Fox News Digital, and when you're going through your footage, if you ever find the soundbite or the clip that features this, there's a reason why someone sent it, and it's probably because they probably mentioned this is the owner of, I would imagine, in the soundbite they probably said this is the owner of the property or something.
Yes, because this was early on, and the whole reason that I got involved in the 712 camera is I had seen a newscast report either from News Nation or Fox News, and there was a reporter in front of 1122, and he was describing the camera that was located across the street, and he even drew a triangulation on the screen as far as what that camera would be able to see. And he kept going on and on about that camera. And after I watched that, I didn't think anything more of it. And then later on, I got to thinking, man, that was some substantial evidence type stuff there. I should have recorded that. I should have gotten pictures, screenshots, things of that nature, and I didn't. And I've been looking for that footage forever now.
Yeah, well, you've got more eyes on it now because we're all looking at it.
Yeah.
And we all go back and we look at these old clips. So it's Fox News Digital. If you guys hear about this, we're all looking about the cameras because I'm honestly, now that I've got my bearings about these cameras, I want to try and make a map of my own with them. But the next thing I'm moving on to are the traffic cams. And I've been really diving into those. And there's some ways that we might even be able to corroborate some information with these traffic cams. So that's another thing I have coming in this week's live stream for you guys too. And Robert, I'm sorry, I keep muting you. I'm not trying to exclude you from the conversation. It's a weird like air noise in the background. I don't know what it is. So
Yeah, you can't diss the Chihuahua.
No, nobody can resist the Chihuahua. We all love it.
Yeah, she's an applehead deerhead hybrid. Her name is Tinker, and she's 4 pounds.
Oh, she's a real teacup then.
Yeah. I call her my scaredy cat guard dog because someone comes in, she'll bark at them, and then she'll run under the bed.
Hey, she just has to tell her master there's someone there. That's all her job is to do. Okay. So let me see if that email from Jeff came about the K-bar because we were all really interested in that. We had some great conversation going. And then we've been on for 4 hours. Bless you.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of here because my daughter's wanting Daddy to start grilling. I'm grilling bratwurst, hamburgers, and hot dogs today. And
Man, that sounds delicious.
Yeah. I soak my brats in Jack Daniels.
Oh, okay.
But she don't get none of the brats because she's 9. Yeah, she likes hot dogs and hamburgers, and she told me last night. She goes, "Daddy, what's that?" I'm like, "That's a bratwurst." She goes, "Yuck." Yeah, she goes, "It looks like sausage. I don't like sausage."
Well,
But
I hope
yeah,
you
I'm
have
gonna.
family time today and enjoy the beautiful weather you're having. You guys your community has been through so much. I'm glad you're having nice weather and everyone can get out and enjoy family and friends today.
Now, I'm going to go visit my parents' grave today as well. But I'm also, I've got some, since BTK is from my area, I've discovered that 4 of his victims is buried in cemeteries here in Wichita, and I'm going to go visit their graves and pay my final respects to them. I'm going to take pictures of their graves and post it on my community page, so their story is not forgotten on this day.
Oh, that's really nice.
And see what's weird is his first victims was a family of 6 back in 1974, and the mom, the dad, and 2 of the younger siblings were killed that day. And it kind of harkens me back to this case because how many people was in the house? 6. Just like the Amityville Horror, how many people was in the house? 6. There's an eerie coincidence with the number 6 when it comes to a serial killer. Now, I'm not saying that the BK is a serial killer, but yeah, you had 6 in 1974. You had 6 in you had 6 in, I believe it was 1974, 76 with the Amityville Horror, and then you had 6 in 2022. 6 people in the house in each scenario.
Eerie connection.
Yeah, the first 4 victims, which was Joseph Otero, his wife Josephine, Joseph Jr., and their daughter Josie. They're buried in Puerto Rico, where they're originally from. And I actually had the chance to talk to one of the surviving children, because they live next door to my sister.
You've done a lot of research on this. My God, you're like an expert. Like, impressive, Robert. It seems like you put your heart into it. I can't wait to see what you come up with for your community page.
Yeah, and now BTK, he's on death's door right now. He's in his 70s. He's refusing to take a shower. He's not eating, so he's pretty much on death's door.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting stuff there, Robert.
Yeah. I actually reached out. I wrote him a letter because I was wanting to do an interview with him, but I found out from the prison that he's in that he's not doing interviews anymore.
Well, he's doing the world a favor, I think.
Yeah. And see, this was weird. And he was wearing a mask. By day he was this normal, ordinary person who was the president of his church. By night, he was going out and killing people.
Yeah, it's twisted.
He was your classic sociopath.
Yeah.
And even his daughter, when he was arrested, was blown away. Because she didn't believe it that this man that raised her and called her dad was this horrible monster.
Yeah.
I mean, because one of his killings, he was the leader of his son's Boy Scout troop, and he snuck out during a camping trip with his son's Boy Scout troop. He snuck out, went and killed somebody, came back, and then snuck back into the tent where his son was asleep and lay down beside him and went to sleep.
Yeah, I heard that too. That's creepy.
That's behind comprehensible. Well, are you covering the story, Robert? Are you going to cover BTK too now, or are you just going to cover the victims right now?
The victims.
Okay.
Because I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he said just cover the victims. He said because BTK, he says he does not need air. He said he was a horrible individual who doesn't need any more publicity. He's had it for the past 30 years. He doesn't need no more. He said what really matters is the victims that people had probably forgot. Like Maureen Hedge, Dolores Davis, Vicki Wagerly, and Shirley Ryan. And those were his last 4 victims. Shirley Ryan was killed in front of her 2 kids.
That's awful.
Yeah, he locked her 2 kids up in a bathroom and strangled their mother less than 20 feet from where they were locked in the bathroom.
I didn't know that, and it's chilling to hear. And Robert, we can't wait to hear what you do with this, because you do such a good job advocating for the victims. So I cannot just wait to see what you put together for your community tab. And it's nice that you're fitting in that work on your family day, because we can obviously hear your little girl screaming for you to go cook right now in the background, which is so sweet. I'm glad you're getting to spend some time with the family. And it's really interesting. We can't wait to hear what you do with that. And Jeff left, which he's thinks, because I had questions for him after all. He dropped a few bombs in the chat. I don't know if you guys were watching, but Jeff, I mean, you or both of you, Robert and 12. There's a couple things I read here that Jeff said. Like, so Jeff was saying, hold on. First off, Dean says, go to Gray Hughes, Bryan Kohberger's route. Boom, 360-degree video, and you will see that camera there. But before that, Jeff said, I have to go up to the timestamp because I didn't start it. Hold on. Before that, Jeff said, hold on. Okay. If I only saw the car that Maddie drive past the light bulb camera, it was still, that wasn't it. Jeff said he went back and saw the camera. I'm bringing it to you, 12, because I thought maybe you could interpret what he said. There's so many comments. I'm not sure if I can find it. Did you see it in the chat though? What he was talking about, 12? I don't know if you're watching.
I didn't. He was talking to somebody else in the chat. I don't even know what they were talking about, but I saw this comment. It said, I only saw the car with Kaylee and Maddie drive past the light bulb camera. I would still make that statement that I saw them arrive home, to say I saw them arrive home and walk through the door. I'm just guessing here. Maybe he means that if he did see them off that camera on 11/18 or the 7/12 one, that he would say that he would have saw them getting out of the car and walking into the house.
Yeah.
I mean, because then the rideshare drivers, I get the rideshare driver and the DoorDash driver's statements mixed up sometimes. But didn't the rideshare driver state that he sat there and made sure they got in the house?
I thought he said he didn't see them get into the house, but I could be mistaken.
Okay.
Not sure.
He dropped them off and didn't even stick around to see them get in the house. As soon as they got out of the car, he took off.
That makes me mad.
Okay.
It makes me a little angry, but no.
I know this is off topic, but it's kind of on topic because it is true crime and it's breaking news that I saw today in Baltimore. There was 6 people stabbed, 4 in a movie theater and 2 at a McDonald's in the same area. They've apprehended the guy that did it. He was 26 years old, but 6 people stabbed. So that is tremendous.
I'm pulling it up so that we can just read the official article. So it's people have bearings what we're talking about in Baltimore. Okay. Hold on, Baltimore. Wow, I'm a little shocked. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is terrible. No, this is a different stabbing.
Yeah, it just happened today, I believe, a couple of hours ago.
It's so weird because it was in Baltimore for sure.
Yeah.
Let's try to in Maryland. Well, there's Braintree in Plymouth, 6 stabbed in Massachusetts.
Or maybe it was Massachusetts. I don't know.
This is South Shore. This is like where I'm from. Like if I live on Cape. So if I came off Cape, this is like maybe 25 minutes from if I left, it's kind of like an island. But yeah, I'll bring up, this is the South Shore of, unless it's a different story, the South Shore of Boston. Hold on. So this is CNN, I think. Okay, Braintree and Plymouth. Is that showing? No. So it says, suspect arrested after 6 stabbed, including 4 girls in separate attacks in Massachusetts, police say are likely connected. And this was May 27th. So this was published today. Let's just play the clip. This isn't YouTube, you guys, so I can't control the commercials. I want a Vitamix so bad. That's why
I
they're
think
playing.
I'll go buy one of those today myself.
I want one so bad. That's why they're playing the
17
commercial.
were stabbed along with their friend at a movie theater in Massachusetts this weekend. She spoke with CNN affiliate WCVB.
Nope. So they were the only 4 people in this movie theater. They had just sat down. They had just got their concessions. And I guess he came up behind them in the row. They were like in the second row, and he came up behind them. My oldest was leaned over to get something. He got her in the back, and then my other daughter in the top chest, and then my last daughter across her arm, laughing the whole time, and then got their friend and then ran off.
Good God.
Introducing Ned's Black Psoriasis.
Man, it's not safe to go to a movie anymore, it seems.
What the heck? You know, I only say like halfway joking. It's not the criminals that we're afraid of. It's the crazy people. You know, it's just so awful. And to think you attack children and then the thought that he's laughing while he's doing it, just pure evil. And I don't know what my audience thinks, but I would say I believe there's real evil in this world, and you don't have to look much farther than your own news headlines to know that.
Then it says an hour later, 21-year-old woman, 29-year-old man were stabbed at a Plymouth McDonald's.
Let me read on.
Wow.
All right, so let me just read this blurb to you so we get the whole story. The suspect was arrested Sunday after 6 people, including 4 girls between the ages of 9 and 17, were stabbed in separate attacks in Massachusetts, authorities say are likely connected. The girls who were attacked at the movie theaters suffered non-life-threatening injuries and were taken to Boston Hospital for treatment. According to the police in Braintree, about an hour later, 21-year-old woman and a 29-year-old man were stabbed in Plymouth McDonald's and were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A suspect in the McDonald's stabbings, Jared Raviza, was arrested 15 minutes after fleeing the scene Saturday night and faces multiple assault charges. Assault. The Plymouth County District Attorney's Office announces in a news release. Raviza, 26, is a suspect in multiple South Shore stabbing incidents, the attorney's office said, though no details on the other incidents were provided. Braintree police have said it appears, though, that the attacks at the movie theater and McDonald's, which occurred about an hour apart, are related. And then it goes on to say the stabbings of the girls at the AMC happened around 6 p.m. in Braintree. The theater was placed under lockdown shortly after the incident, and AMC employees told CNN. Without saying anything and without any warning, that he suddenly attacked and stabbed the 4 young females, police officers said of the suspect. The attacks appeared to be unprovoked. After the attack, the man ran out of the theater and left in his vehicle. Police discovered the suspect and had left the theater in what appeared to be a black SUV, and video footage allowed authorities to capture its license plate and release says. The vehicle matched the description and reportedly involved in similar assault in Plymouth, which is about 30 minutes drive south of Braintree, police said. Raviza allegedly arrived on the scene of the Plymouth McDonald's stabbings in a black Porsche Mircon SUV, according to prosecutors. Police were then called to the scene at around 7 p.m. Sounds like a good person to sue. About an hour after the AMC attacks in Braintree, the district attorney's office said surveillance footage from the McDonald's appears to show Raviza reach through the driver's door window and stab the male victim with a large knife, prosecutors allege. Video then shows the suspect park his car, enter the restaurant, and stab a female victim before fleeing the car, according to the district's attorney's office. Within minutes, state troopers located the suspect's car but failed to stop when they tried to pull it over. Officers chased the vehicle, which crashed in Sandwich, about 25 minutes drive from Plymouth, according to police. Preliminary investigation suggests a likely connection an earlier incident at the movie theater in Braintree, resulting in non-life-threatening injuries to 4 juveniles, state police said. Ariza was being treated for non-life-threatening injuries at the hospital Sunday, the prosecutor's office said. Ariza will face multiple charges related to McDonald's stabbings, including assault with intention to murder of the 2 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. And prosecutors say, I don't understand why it's not 6 counts of attempted murder. It doesn't make any sense. They're children. I mean, he was expected to appear on court on Tuesday. CNN has been unable to identify an attorney for Ariza, but has sought further information from the Massachusetts State Police Department, Plymouth County District Attorney's Office, and Braintree Police. Massachusetts State Police investigation are active and ongoing, and I'm going to stop there. I heard I was listening to a true crime event, and by the way, Robert, sorry to see you go. I was listening to a true crime. Oops, I meant to take this off stage. Something about true crime recently, and a woman was talking about how somebody came in and stabbed her, and it was like this local teenager, and it was a really bizarre thing. Like, he had no motive. He was just wanted to stab someone. It was really awful. But they asked her, he was coming at her, and he was roughly the same size, maybe even a tiny bit smaller. And they said, and he brutally stabbed her, and she ended up calling 911 herself on her as she was about to pass out. And they asked her, they go, was he really strong? And she goes, it wasn't so much he was strong, but he was determined. And I kept thinking about those videos you showed in the live stream I was in with you, 12 Gauge, and it just seems nearly impossible. Like, how do you protect yourself from a knife attack? I mean, maybe if you had a baseball bat, or like I don't know, maybe putting space between you and the attacker, but how do you even defend yourself against something like that? So
I don't know. I spoke on that last night a little bit. I mean, 5 hits per second, they said in that one. And I mean, and anybody they've interviewed in some article that I've read, they said that usually you don't even realize you're being stabbed. It feels like a punch. And it isn't until you lose your breath or you go into shock or whatever, then you realize that you've been stabbed. So all that taken into account, it would be a terrifying scene. Because you don't realize what's going on. You think somebody just punching you, and then next thing you know, you lose your breath. You go into shock. I don't know how you would defend yourself from that.
I don't know. It's absolutely chilling, but my prayers are going out to all the people that we just talked about that were affected by that crime that just recently happened. And I'm sorry to hear that this person isn't being fully charged with attempted murder on all 6 people. I mean, I don't know all the details, obviously, but what else could it be if you attack a child with a knife as a grown person? I don't know.
Right. You're just sitting down to watch a movie and then somebody goes off on you like that. I mean, wow. The mom was so calm. You'd think she'd been hysterical. But I guess she gathered it all together after the fact, Who knows?
Yeah, maybe she's halfway in shock too. Who knows? And I don't even know where the chat is at. But I'm hitting that 4-hour mark, and I've been up here for a while. 12. It was such a pleasant surprise to have you come up on panel. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope you get to enjoy some of this Memorial Day. You're taking some time off from school, and you get to spend time with family and friends.
Yes. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful Memorial Day. See y'all soon.
And please check out 12's channel. It's 12 Gauge Phillips, and he has a live later today. Is that right?
Yes, today at 6 o'clock tonight, Central.
All right. We'll be there. Thanks for showing up, 12. I'll see you soon. And thank you, everyone, for showing up today. I do have a little outro to play you. I have some music and some pictures just to kind of go over everything that we discussed today. I know you can be anywhere today, so I appreciate that you were here with me. And with that,